Hello and welcome to Idaho Bigfoot. I'm your host, Chap. Today I'm going to be playing for you an interview I did with a fantastic ophthalmologist down in Clarkston, Washington over at Eye Care Specialists. He answered a lot of questions that I had in regards to eyesight and how the human eye works. And he went into some answers to some questions I had specifically about how the human eye reacts to light. And these questions I had were kind of based off of reports that I've heard with Bigfoot. And although we did not go into Bigfoot in the video, I think a lot of the answers in there you will find very interesting, and they apply very much towards Bigfoot. For example, can we as humans develop a tapetum lucidum? This is important to note because the eye shine that people see with Bigfoot reports, generally speaking, should not be there if it's that amber or greenish color, because apes and humans do not have a tapetum lucidum. Or do we? That's something that I asked him. Is it possible that someone has developed one as a very rare mutation? And I also asked him, is it possible that someone could develop one as a sort of rare mutation genetically? And he also answered some questions I had in regards to the red glow that our eyes get when a light is put on them. If you've seen any kind of reels on Instagram where it was kind of a darker environment, so someone was recording with their phone and had a light on the phone, there's a red eye effect that is seen with someone's eyes. They look like they're bright red, and it's a very weird look. Well, I asked him, first of all, what that effect is, how that works. But I also asked him about whether or not it's possible someone could have a different metal in their blood that could cause them to have more of an amber or greenish tint to their eyes when a light is shown into their eyes. Is it possible that that's what's happening with people? Maybe Bigfoot doesn't have a tapetum lucidum, but maybe there's something else in their blood that's causing them to have a different effect for the eyes. All sorts of different questions. And of course, we didn't bring up Bigfoot, but I think this interview is really interesting. I think a lot of people will like it. The full interview was originally posted to Potlatch Productions YouTube channel. It's a YouTube channel I just came up with, but I figured I'd post it here just to make sure people get to see it, because I think it's a really important interview for y'all to see. I can't speak, I'm sorry. It's getting really cold out here. It's like 7 degrees. My mouth is freezing up. So I hope you all enjoy. Please remember to comment down below. Just leaving a comment, anything, just something simple, helps the algorithm a lot. I want this video to get a lot of views. So if you could please do that, I would really appreciate it. And if you like, and click that share button down below and then share it, that way YouTube knows you're sharing it, that would help a lot. But anyway, let's dive right in, and then I have some comments at the end of the video. So without any further ado, here we go. To start us out, could you give us an overview of your accomplishments and degrees, please?
Sure. So I grew up in Wisconsin and did my undergrad at St. Cloud State University in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I got a double major in biochemistry and chemistry. And then I moved across the pond, Lake Michigan, what we call it in Wisconsin, to Michigan State. And there I went to medical school and graduated in 2005. And then I got a residency spot in ophthalmology at the St. John's Health System in Detroit. Spent 4 years there learning to be an ophthalmologist, treating surgeries of the eye. And then I moved to New Jersey and did a 6-month fellowship to learn how to do corneal transplants. And then I decided I hated the East Coast and moved as far away as possible and moved out here. And I was actually here for a year and joined my partner, Mark Eggleston, and his father retired after I'd been here for a year and bought into the practice, and I've been here ever since.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. So what do you do at Eye Care Specialists?
So we do all kinds of things. Anything from simple basic exams for contact lenses and glasses to medical treatments for diabetes, macular degeneration, glaucoma. We do medical treatments with medications, drops, injections. We do surgeries to remove cataracts, do corneal transplants, eyelid surgeries. We do cancer removals, basically anywhere from here to here, as well as diagnose a lot of neurological disorders that can affect the visual system, and then kind of work with neurology to treat those things. We also do some refractive things. I'm currently implanting contact lenses inside the eye. It's called a Visian ICL. So for somebody like yourself that might not want to wear glasses, you can actually have a very similar procedure to cataract surgery, except no removal of a cataract, just sliding a contact lens behind the colored part of your eye to allow you to see better. So we do a lot of specialty medical and surgical eye care.
Fascinating. Okay. I like the glasses, but I can see why someone would want that. They do get in the way.
Everybody.
Yeah, and I've lost them a few times too. So I don't think I'd lose that if I got that. Hopefully not. Anyway, you kind of talked about how you got at how you got over at eye care specialist. Sorry, I'm tripping over my words. So I think we can kind of pass that one up, if that's okay.
Yeah, like most docs, when we get out of residency, we hire a recruiter, and we kind of give them parameters as to what we're looking for. I wanted to be somewhere near mountains and somewhere near water, so the LC Valley is perfect for me. But they'll find you spots around, and then you just go interview for people looking for partners.
Okay, thank you. It is a great spot to be at to get a lot of outdoor recreation. It's in between everything, basically. So what made you want to pursue ophthalmology as a career? Were there any positive influences on you that helped direct you toward that path?
Absolutely. So like most people, it takes a couple times to get in medical school. Medical school is really competitive. I had a 4.0 GPA, and despite that, I didn't get in my first time, and then studied more for my boards and got in the second time. While I was waiting for that to happen, I wanted to get a job to get some medical experience and beef up my application. And I just happened to get hired as a tech at Lansing Ophthalmology in East Lansing, Michigan. And I didn't even know the difference between an ophthalmologist and an optometrist. I just needed a job to fill out my application. I wanted to be an ER doctor. And when I got there and started working with the ophthalmologist and saw what they did, I absolutely loved it. And then when I went to medical school, I compared everything against that, and nothing even came close. So it's almost like fate directed me in that fashion.
Reminds me of a song I heard, Destiny Turns on a Dime. Sometimes
Yeah,
things work out interestingly.
exactly. You really start to wonder whether fate's pushing you in the right way.
Yeah. So were there any positive influences in supportive people that helped encourage you and assist you? Basically, did you have any good role models in this field?
Absolutely. David Kaufman is the one that comes to mind right away. He's a neuro-ophthalmologist in East Lansing, Michigan. I try to emulate most of the things I do in practice today. He's a brilliant man. He gives his time when it's needed. He's very caring, and he is constantly on the top of his field. And I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with him during medical school and then residency. And that was definitely the person that I wanted to practice like. The flip side to your question is when you do your medical training, you're exposed to thousands of doctors. And not only do you have good role models, but you see lots of people that show you what you don't want to be. People that don't treat people the right way, people that are in medicine for the wrong reasons. So there was a lot of negative things that said, I don't want to do that at all. So, but the definitely biggest positive influence is David Kaufman.
I'm glad you had him. Unfortunately, you will meet all sorts of people, and not all of them are great examples.
And that's true in all walks of life, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. When it comes to things that you encounter, attitude-wise or question-wise, is there a pet peeve that you have, something that you deal with frequently that can be bothersome?
Yeah, when I saw this question, it was easy. My biggest pet peeve is the general population and every physician other than an ophthalmologist thinks red eyes are automatically infected. They automatically think they have pink eye. And in the 15 years I've been an ophthalmologist, 99% of red eyes are dry eye or irritation or allergy, and very small percentage are infection. But even when you explain to people your eye's not infected, it's really dry and inflamed, we're going to fix it, they come back and say, how's my infection doing? Because that's what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I've met a few people like that, and thankfully it's not a bad thing because I've seen a lot of it. Is there a misconception about your line of work that you would like to correct? A belief wrongly held by the general public that should be set straight, maybe?
I think the biggest thing is that there's a big difference between ophthalmology and optometry. And as I mentioned earlier, before I worked for an ophthalmologist, I had no idea the difference. And I'd worn contacts for 10 years. I'd always seen an optometrist. I didn't even know the difference between that and an ophthalmologist. Optometrists go to at least 2 years of undergrad, usually 4, and then they spend 4 years of training in glasses, contacts, optics, in screening exams. But they're not taught in surgical technique. They don't go to medical school. So, if you are perfectly healthy and you just need glasses and contacts, an optometrist is fine for you. But the second you have something medical going on, you should really be seeing an ophthalmologist. And I see a lot of patients who think they were seeing an ophthalmologist and they weren't, because it's not very well described. And both of us call ourselves doctors. There's all kinds of people around the signs that say, I'm an eye doctor, and you don't know which one they are unless you see the initials behind the name. So.
What causes the red eye effect that is commonly seen in photos?
So when light enters the eye, the main goal of the eye is to allow you to see things. So it's trying to capture all that light. So when we're looking at each other right now, you normally just see a black nothingness where your pupil is. But when you overload the eye with light and then capture it in a split second, like you do in a photograph, you see the reflection of the red-orange pigment that's underneath the retina. The retina is actually clear, but the retinal pigment epithelium and then the vascular layer underneath it, the choriocapillaris, are reddish orange. And actually, you'll get a different red reflex for how pigmented you are. If you're very pale and Caucasian, you'll tend to have a red-orange reflex. If you're African-American, you'll have more of a darker red, purplish reflex because they have more pigment in the retina as well.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, so a lot of times you can, even if you just show an eye and you see the red reflex, you can guess their ethnicity based on that. It's not always accurate, but pretty close.
That's pretty neat. Okay, learn something new every day. Awesome, thank you. So this is an interesting question I've wondered for a little while now. Is it possible that if someone has another metal in their blood, that their eyes could give off a different color instead of looking like a shade of red, maybe amber or green, or however the eye works? Is it possible that they could give off different colors?
So when you have metal toxicity and you have high metals in your eye, typically that's either iron or copper, and those metals can be deposited in the cornea, which is the clear window in the front part of the eye. So usually it's not enough for you to detect with the naked eye, but a lot of times when we're magnified up giving an exam, we can see rings of either green for copper or red for iron on the cornea, and that tells me that these people have toxic metal levels. Very rare, but you see it. As far as the retina goes, it very rarely holds on to those heavy metals. The one thing that we do see is people who have super high cholesterol, and usually it's a genetic familial problem where they have super high cholesterol. They already know it before they, see this on a picture, but they'll have more of a yellowy or pinkish hue to their retina because they actually get white lipids stuck in the retina. And that pigment that we were talking about before gets shaded with white. So that's really the only thing you can see from kind of overload in the system.
That's interesting. Now, I would assume that that is kind of an answer to this next question, but is there any kind of condition congenitally that could affect the eyes to give off another color other than red?
So nothing that I'm aware of, and kind of coming up to this interview, I did a quick list search, nothing that I can find. That's not to say that something like that isn't possible. When you get genetic mutations or different medical conditions, you really have to have some kind of mutation that doesn't mess up something else. So a lot of these drastic mutations, like we're talking about, that would change that color, would result in damaging some other organ or something that you need. So those people don't make it. But, it's possible, but nothing that I've found documented at all.
Okay, thank you. So in animals, there is a special adaptation for low light conditions called the Tapetum Lucidum. I'm just going to read this off real quick. A reflective layer located in the choroid, it acts like a mirror that reflects the light back toward the photoreceptor layer, thus increasing the probability that the light will be absorbed by the photopigment and contribute to visual sensation in dim light. So although it's well known that generally humans do not possess a tapetum lucidum, is it possible that someone could develop that kind of mutation, or maybe has already developed that kind of mutation?
So no documented history of that mutation being present, but again, not impossible in any means. I think it's more likely that we would maybe engineer that in the future with better technology to give us better light in, low light, or better vision in low light conditions, kind of like what was that movie, Pitch Black, with well, I can't think of his name, but anyway, the lead character in that movie they'd set a rim job, and he got his retinas fixed so he could see in the dark, and they're reflected, and it's exactly, they kind of copied that tapetum concept, but nothing that is documented currently. And again, like we talked about before, to be able to have a random mutation to completely add a new layer in front of the retina without damaging something else would be really unusual. But I could see us, through tech in future years, not in our lifetime, but possibly changing something like that on purpose.
I would imagine that would be pretty advanced stuff. So
exactly,
it would be very strange to see that in real life, I'd imagine. So another question here: how does the human eye work? How do we see the world, and what processes are involved to allow us to see?
So as light enters the eye, again, it's going to go through the clear cornea in the front window of the eye, go through the pupil. The pupil's like the aperture in the camera. And then that light is going to pass actually through the retina, because like I mentioned earlier, the retina is clear. And it actually stimulates the photoreceptors at the base of the retina, and then sends a signal out through the clear retina that then travels to the optic nerve. The optic nerve sends those electrical impulses to your brain, and then your brain interprets those impulses and tells us what we're seeing. What's interesting is I always tell patients to think about the eye like a digital camera. You got the camera, you got the cable that hooks to your computer, and you got your computer. And all three of those things have to be working well for you to see. So very similar situation.
Okay. Well, thank you. How does the human eye react to changing light conditions, going from a very bright area to a very dark area, for example?
So the main thing that's going to change is the size of your pupil. So like I mentioned before, it's the aperture for your camera. So in bright light conditions, your pupil is going to get smaller to restrict the amount of light coming in so you don't oversaturate the retina. Those photoreceptors that are stimulated in the retina when light hits it, they actually fire a chemical that then sends that chemical message to the optic nerve. And it takes a couple seconds for them to reload. So when you get oversaturated with light, like when you get flash from the camera and you see that white after image, that pigment hasn't had time to reload and refire. So the pupil's whole job is to limit the amount of light so that that doesn't happen. So that's the main thing that's going to happen, is your pupil's going to change. But you do have a lot of other subconscious stimuli. Like if you get in a bright light, your eyes are going to want to close. You'll want to turn your head to avoid those noxious stimuli kind of things.
Okay. How good are our eyes, generally speaking, in low light?
So generally pretty good. I mean, not as good as some of those animals you mentioned that have that reflective film on the retina, but our night vision is actually quite good. It does depend a lot on your refractive state. So, you're wearing glasses. I've had refractive surgery, so we don't have much of a refraction in our current state. But say you lost your glasses and you were in the dark, you'd have much worse vision than if you were corrected with your glasses. So, before we had glasses, back in the Stone Ages, it was a variable a lot between people. And now we're all pretty similar if we're corrected.
Okay. What kind of limits do we generally have with our vision? I know one source claimed that assuming perfect vision, we can see a candlelight 30 miles away on a clear night with direct line of sight. Is that true, or more likely a myth?
So that I actually looked that up in preparation for this. That came from a study that was done at Columbia University, and it was a theoretical physics study. So they were looking at how light would travel in a vacuum, and how sensitive your retina was, and then hypothesized how far that would be. In reality, atmosphere is not a vacuum. We've got water vapor, we've got particulate matter, a lot of things to scatter light. So in reality, most people with good vision would only see brightness equal to a candlelight at about a mile away. Theoretically, if all those factors were perfect, you could be at that distance, but you'd literally have to have no water vapor, no anything in the air.
That sounds a lot more realistic. So thank you. I didn't, it felt like an overestimation for sure. And that explains it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And obviously, the brighter the light, we're talking about candle, right? Mm-hmm. So, where you can see the sun because it's extremely bright and it's really far away, right? So as you increase that intensity, that distance is going to get bigger.
That makes sense. Is there anything about our eyes that you find intriguing personally? Maybe something that's not known to the general public?
Yeah, so my favorite part of the eye, I'm actually a corneal transplant specialist, and I went and got that additional training because the cornea amazes me. It is a clear structure on the front part of your eye. It is essential to bending the light in the right manner to allow you to see, and yet there's no cells there. It's just a clear protein matrix. You can crank it all the way up to electron micrographs before you can actually see some structure. There are some immune cells that float in and out from time to time, but overall there's no blood vessels, there's no cells, there's no anything, and yet somehow it stays together in the right order to help us see. It's pretty amazing the way it works.
Yeah, I did not know that. That is very interesting. So now we're going to move to the introductory questions. So we're going back to the beginning basically here. Okay, well, thank you. And I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview with me. And
my pleasure.
It means a lot to me. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. December was absolutely nuts. I felt bad I didn't get back to you sooner, but yeah, once I got my life back under control after the holidays are over, I want to get this done for you.
Oh, well, thank you. And no worries. It was the same over here. We had a lot of things going on. So I think it worked out a lot better waiting until now. So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. And if you got any other follow-up questions or any other things, just drop me a line, okay?
Okay, I will. Thank you. And once the video's up, I'll make sure to email you a link.
That sounds great, Jeff.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one.
Hey, you too. We'll catch you later.
All right, guys, we're back. I wanted to say that the reason I posted it here to Idaho Bigfoot is not to, get his name muddled into the Bigfoot topic, but it's because I want this video to get a lot of views. I posted it to Potlatch Productions, which is the YouTube channel that I set up where I'm going to be posting all of my interviews I do with people. But I figured because of the lack of videos on that channel, it's not going to get a lot of views. And so far it only has 35. And until YouTube wakes up and goes, oh, hey, something worth watching, how about we promote it? It's just kind of sit there. So I wanted to get this video out over here, and hopefully this will get more views. But if y'all could please help it get more viewership on Potlatch Productions as well. If you just go over there, mute it, let it play, click the like button, that would be great, because it's really no different than this video, except that I didn't make this kind of intro for it. But I really hope it gets a lot of views. It was very kind of him to go out of his way to talk to me. Some things came up, didn't allow us to talk for a while, and he still made the effort to make sure that he reached out and we were able to do this. And it was very kind. He's a very nice man. Very accomplished guy, and the fact that he was willing to do this with me means a lot. So I'm hoping that this video can get some more views and more people can hear what he had to say. He was a great interview. He was very easy on me. It was just great. First interview I've done in a very long time, and I think it went really well. If you are in the LC Valley and you need any kind of eye care, feel free to check them out. Eye care specialist down in Clarkston, Washington. That's actually where I got my glasses. That's originally where I asked him if he wanted to do an interview with me. So I'm going to be using that information in my documentary that's going to be coming up about Bigfoot. But, we had a great conversation. Please remember to share the video by copying that link down below and sharing it to anyone who you think would enjoy it. It's not related to Bigfoot. So if you want to go to the Potlatch Productions one, where there's nothing about Bigfoot related there, that would be great to send that to anyone who wants to check that out. I'm hoping that video can get more views. So if you want to go copy the link over there, and send that off to people, that would be great. Any kind of homeschool groups or whatever would be great for that. And any kind of Bigfoot groups as well. I mean, it does apply to Bigfoot research. So I hope you all enjoy it. Again, please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. I need to get inside now. It's cold. Bye.